Thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. My name is Amaya Perez. I'm the Online Programming Director of RfR, and here today with the speaker Mandisa, who is going to talk us about how to come out as an atheist in 2021. But before we begin with her amazing presentation, I need to do like a short intro. So the first thing I would like to do is pull up a few poll questions. There's 3 questions today. The possible answers are yes, no, I don't know. So question number 1 is, are you out as an atheist? Question number 2 is, do you feel comfortable discussing your non-belief to acquaintances and relatives? And question number 3 is, do you belong to any local or national secular organizations? Mind that the poll questions are anonymous, so you don't need to, don't worry about that aspect because they are completely anonymous. So the second thing I want to do is give a shout out to the atheist community of Discord, because they are streaming this session on their platform. So thank you so much, guys, for doing that. And then for those of you who are new, I just want to explain a bit of what we do in RfRx. So RfRx is basically a series of online weekly sessions where we bring in guests to discuss different topics that have to do with religion or that are relevant to anyone who is living religion. And this is a way of providing good advice and coping skills to anyone who needs them right now. So if you have any sort of questions, any feedback, any suggestions for speakers or anything at all, you can send us an email, which I will link in the chat, which is rfrx@recoveringfromreligion.org. And if you want to watch our previous RfRx sessions, you can do so in our YouTube channel, which I will also link down below. And if you're watching this in our YouTube channel, every single link I mentioned will be in the description chat, so you don't have to worry about that either. And then, so RfRx is part of a bigger organization called Recovering from Religion. And I just want to talk a bit about what it is that we do in Recovering from Religion. So we have a mission statement. And the mission statement is that we offer hope, healing, and support to those who are dealing with issues of religion and non-belief. So the first thing that we offer is healing, and healing we offer via our helpline. And you can contact our helpline in 2 different ways. One of them is online chat, and the other one is telephone calls. So if you do contact our helpline, you will be received by a trained agent, and they will listen to you with an empathetic ear and no judgmental criticism to any issues that you may have which are related to religion. So if you feel like you could really use just someone to listen to your struggles, I highly encourage you contact one of our helpline agents, because they are absolutely amazing. They're beautifully trained, and I'm sure they will help you out. And if they can't, they will guide you to resources that will help you out. So also, just as a note, they are available 24/7, and it's confidential, obviously. So yeah, go check them out because they're absolutely lovely. And the second way that we offer healing is via our resource page. It's basically a very large number of resources. It's obviously a website where we have a list of podcasts, videos, articles, just books, anything you can imagine, you will find it there. And we have divided the resource page by topics. So if you're someone who's struggling with fear of hell, you will find resources for that. If you are a member of the LGBTQ+ community, you will find resources specifically that will be helpful for you. So it's kind of targeted towards different topics that you may be struggling with, or different groups that you may be a member of. So again, highly encourage you to go to our resource page if you feel like you could use it. Now, the second thing that we offer is hope. And the way we offer hope is via sharing and listening to personal stories. So it's this idea that if I can go through something, so can you, and I can help you in this process. And in order to do this sort of story sharing, is that we have a blog and a podcast, which again I will share all the links in the description down below. And then the last thing that we offer is support. So the way we offer support is via 2 different ways. So first of all, we have the support groups, and these are face-to-face meetings. Obviously, with the pandemic, they're done online, but once this whole thing is over, it will go back to be face-to-face. And this basically like a meeting where you can meet people that share similar backgrounds as you, and you can just talk to them about different issues that you may be struggling with. We have over 42 groups around the world, so I'm pretty sure that you will find one near you, especially if you live in the US. And if you don't, because right now they're all online, you could still join one of them if you're interested in something like this. And the last way that we offer support is via our secular therapy project. And the idea of the secular therapy project is that people should be able to have access to therapists that are properly licensed and that are not going to tell you that you should pray more, for example. That wouldn't be, something that you may want to avoid if you have had experiences previously with religious therapists. So we have collected a very large number of like a list essentially of secular therapists, and we do screen them with a very, in my opinion, a great criteria. And basically what we do is we make sure that they are appropriately licensed in their own country or state, that they maintain a secular practice, so there's no risk of proselytizing, and they use exclusively evidence-based treatments. So that is our criteria, and we do have a team for it. So it should be really helpful if you have struggled with looking for a therapist before and you haven't found the right person yet. That may be a good place to start. So again, highly encourage you join them. If not join them, contact them if you need it. And apart from that, we also have an online community. And this is an online platform where we have different groups. So we have, for example, LGBTQ plus group. We have a group only for Australians. We have a group for only females. We have all sorts of different groups. And there you can just meet people that come from the same place as you do and belong to the same groups as you do. So they probably can understand your experience better. So if you could use like someone who does really know what you're going through because they have gone through it themselves, I highly encourage you to join one of our online community groups. And the way to do this is just contact one of our helpline agents. They are the ones that will let you know if you fit the criteria to join our online community, and they will be the ones that will let you know how to do it. And then the last thing I want to talk about before we start with the session is volunteering, because Recovering from Religion is exclusively run by volunteers. So if you have free time right now, I know it's quite difficult, obviously, a pandemic and all that jazz, but if you have free time, if you have the resources, if you want to perhaps develop your skills, if you believe in what RfR does, I highly encourage you to join us as a volunteer. You could have so many different roles. There's so many that you can choose from. You could be a helpline agent, you could be a support group leader, you could be someone that looks for resources, you could be social hangout host here at RfRx. You could be so many different things. So I'm sure we will find like a role that fits your skills, if obviously you do pass the criteria to be a volunteer. So if you are interested in doing this, there is a website that you can go to, recoveringfromreligion.org/volunteer. So if you go to that website, then you should be able to just follow the steps that they offer, and you'll be part of us, which would be absolutely amazing. And now to the actual session. So we have a very specific structure. We will have a presentation, a discussion, conversation for 1 hour with Mandisa, and then we will have a Q&A which lasts between 20 to 30 minutes. And during the Q&A, you can submit any questions that you want. You just need to link, add them to the chat, and then we will collect them and we will ask them to Mandisa. Okay, well, thank you so much, Mandisa, for being here today. I'm going to let you introduce yourself because you've been here so many times. I'm sure most people here already know you, but just in case, for those of them who are new, then I'll let you do your thing. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Amaya, or good morning, because I know there are some people that are in different time zones. So I appreciate all of you tuning in wherever you are. We definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much to Darrel and Gail and everyone at Recovering from Religion. This is a part of my family as well, so I'm glad to be back and speaking with you this evening. So for those of you, welcome, to this edition of the RfRx series. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, I am Mandisa Thomas, founder and president of Black Nonbelievers, and I'm going to get a bit more into my introduction shortly. But this particular session is about coming out atheists as atheists in 2021, right? We are in a new year. We're definitely in a new decade, and this is still an issue for many of us. And I saw in the poll that there are quite a few people that are out as atheists. However, as when it comes to the discussion and actually expressing it, it certainly is still a challenge for many. And this is why we build our organizations, and this is one of the reasons why we build our communities, is to help with this process, and so that people know that you don't have to go through it alone. There are many people who can support you, and whatever your decision process is, we are definitely here to help. And I see everyone say hello, hello, everyone. So definitely look forward to speaking. I'm going to share my screen right now because I love sharing PowerPoints. I love sharing visuals. And I must let you know beforehand that I am speaking as a person who provides peer support, as an organizer, as a community leader, and as someone whose activism revolves around speaking very candidly with folks and really trying to help people in real time and where they are, and trying to incorporate resources along with the support and community that people need, especially once they leave religion behind. So we're going to get into the chat here. And wow, we got a lot of folks here. So once again, this is a collaboration with Recovering from Religion as well as Black Nonbelievers. Very, very happy to be here once again. And so a bit about me. For those of you who don't know, once again, founder and president of Black Nonbelievers, which celebrated our 10th anniversary. We're celebrating our 10th anniversary all year this year. We got started in 2011 in the Atlanta area. We just celebrated our anniversary. We had our anniversary event last month, which featured Darrel Ray and Gail Jordan, among others. I will tell you where you can find those presentations if you missed it later on in the evening, in the hour. But I certainly recommend that you check them out because there was some wonderful, wonderful presentations there. And I hope you will continue to celebrate our 10th anniversary with us in doing this work because it is absolutely needed and important. And it's awesome that we get to work with fellow organizations like Recovering from Religion with our mission. Now, for those of you who haven't heard me tell my story about a million times, I'm going to tell it a million one time. So I was born and raised in New York City from Jamaica, Queens. And unlike many people within the Black community in particular, I actually had a secular upbringing. Now, I am 44 years old. I was born in the 1970s, for those of you who are old enough to remember that time. And that was a very pivotal time within the Black community. It was one of, still a revolution, a sense of wanting to identify more with Black consciousness and Afrocentric identity. And I was one of those children raised in that time where many Black parents were naming their children African names. And they were trying to connect with a sense of, again, the history and the culture. So I grew up learning about institutional systemic racism and injustice, as well as being instilled with a sense of pride in my community and my history and my culture. And actually, one of my first influences, my first secular influences, was my maternal grandmother, Ethel May Welch, who was a native of New Orleans, where we just held a 10th anniversary celebration. I remember growing up going to many family gatherings. We would celebrate Thanksgiving, Easter, and there was never any prayer. There was never any call to, there was never an appeal to a higher God, or even though I do have some religious family members on that side of my family, my maternal side. Now, my grandmother, my other grandmother, my paternal grandmother, is a different story. My father and his siblings were raised strictly religious, and my dad actually hated going to church, and so I was my mother decided that she made a conscious decision that my brothers and I would not be raised in a religious setting. So we were fortunate enough to have, even though we were raised in a very low income area, we were fortunate enough that at that time in New York, there were plenty of cultural centers and we would go to the library. There was a lot. Education was a huge. There was a huge emphasis on education in our household. And so, but I also am a classically trained singer. And so as a child, I would travel around the city of New York and the borough of Queens, singing at various churches under a voice instructor. So I have what I would consider still an outsider's perspective on religion. Now, I won't say that I wasn't indoctrinated, because I was, and there were some things that I had to unlearn, but I wasn't raised in a household where I absolutely had to believe in any God whatsoever. And I grew up reading different mythology, Greek, Norse, African mythology. So I had a pretty well-rounded view on perspectives of God and religion and such. And I also knew early on that it was something that I could never seriously subscribe to, because it always seemed to be very binding to me and something that really limited a sense of growth. So it was something that I knew that I could just never, ever, conform to. So I consider myself fortunate in that regard, where I didn't have to overcome such a strict religious upbringing to the point where it caused any type of emotional trauma, at least to that extent, or at least it didn't add to that. So over the years, my family and I moved to the Atlanta, Georgia area. I eventually re-identified as an atheist in 2011. And at the time that Black Nonbelievers was created, I was working full time as the event services manager at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention at the main campus near Emory University. And so, as the organization grew and the demands for my time and work increased within the secular community, I quit that job. I transitioned to full time activism in 2018. So, I'm coming up on my 3-year anniversary of being a full-time activist within the secular community. And you'll see a link down at the bottom right underneath my picture. There is an additional way to support my activism through my Patreon. You can type in the link there and subscribe for as little as $1 per month to help support my activism, because almost all of my work in this movement is still volunteer, similar to recovering from religion. But I contend that it was still the best decision I ever made in my life, because it has helped all of the experiences that I have with my career choices, as well as my decision to become an activist and lead this organization, has just made me a better person, and it has made it has really, really made it has been so instrumental to my growth and my ability to help other people. So, in addition to volunteering for recovering from religion, I've been a group leader consistently in the Morrow, Georgia area since 2013. So that's 8 years now. I also currently serve on the boards for American Atheists and the American Humanist Association. And in that time, I have been fortunate to have received some recognition in this movement. I was a recipient of the Backbone Award, which is given by the Secular Student Alliance annually in 2019. I was also named the Freedom for Religion Foundation's Freethought Heroine in 2019. I was named the Unitarian Universalist Humanist Association's Person of the Year in 2018. And finally, in 2020, I was the co-recipient of the 2020 Harvard Humanist of the Year award, along with Sakibu Hutchinson and Ijoma Aluo. And if you aren't familiar with those two ladies, I highly recommend you research them. Sakibu was also a presenter at our 10th anniversary celebration last month. Highly recommend you do some research and also support their work. Now, I always say that I did not get involved for the recognition, but it's nice when it comes, because, I work my ass off, just like a lot of the people in this movement. So I think it's very important that, and this work isn't easy. And I realize that we are representing quite a few people, some who are out and some who aren't. And as people leave their religious institutions and leave the God concept behind, we are putting in some work to help those who really need that support. So, I really appreciate. It's been an honor to have been involved for 10 years now in this movement, and I hope to continue for more years to come. I look forward to that. And so, but the good thing about being in this for 10 years now is we've been fortunate enough to see some changes. And one of the things that, even though in 2021, we're now in a new year, we're in a new presidential administration in this country, I know many of us are breathing a sigh of relief right now because these past 4 years have been very, very exhausting. And so we are moving forward with a sense of optimism. And a point of that is my I've had the good opportunity to connect with other organizations as a representative of Black non-believers, and definitely as a representative of the atheist and non-religious perspective. And I had the opportunity to contribute to the Interfaith Youth Corps series of the State of the Interfaith Nation. And I wrote Celebrating Non-Believers in Interfaith America. You can click on, you can copy and paste that link if you so choose. And the one thing that I definitely, and many of us emphasize, is that embracing, expressing, and celebrating our atheism, non belief, humanism, skepticism, free thought in 2021 is important. And it's important because we are seeing a rise of the non religious demographic here in the United States. Now, everyone doesn't necessarily identify as atheists as such, but we are seeing a shift. We are seeing a move away from the traditional religious communities. We are seeing a shift away from those traditional faith practices. And I think many of us can say that it is because now we are in an age of information. People have more access to it, and therefore there simply isn't a need to just blindly believe anymore. Even though sadly we see other people who still do, but in order for us to continue to gain this ground when it comes to state church separation, when it comes to community building, and also helping people become their more authentic selves, it is important that we embrace this identity as atheists, right? For those of you who aren't familiar with the definition, it just means that it is a lack of belief. I try to expound on the definition. I define it as non belief in any God, spirits, or supernatural beings. So if I don't believe in a God, I don't believe in the devil. I also don't believe in Santa Claus. I also don't believe in Superman or Batman or any other characters that we find in fiction. And so I think it's important for us to make that distinction, and that many of us also have rejected the existing claims of God, spirits, or supernatural beings. Now, when you go into the definition, it shouldn't be that difficult, right? It shouldn't be that hard to convey and express. But we all know that it still can be because of the still highly negative stigma surrounding atheism, and some people equating it to devil worship, and and definitely due to the lack of understanding, and also because there are still few of us who are openly identified and who actually can openly identify. So our voices are still overshadowed to an extent. We are still growing our communities, so therefore we are still facing uphill battles when it comes to this identity and also expressing it and finding others. But we are doing it. There are those of us who are fighting back against that, that Christian nationalism, those religious norms, and also re-educating folks on our existence, re-educating each other on our existence. Because there are many of us who feel isolated and who still feel like there aren't many of us out here, and there definitely are. There are definitely more of us out here, and it's important that we find each other and find our voices to express ourselves and also celebrate it. It's a liberating journey. I remember what it was like for me to actually come to that atheism and to feel like, you know what, I no longer have this this sense of who someone, some being, he, she, or it, or they, or whatever, watching every move that I make, and that something bad is going to happen as a result, right? Many of us have felt that. But coming to those identities in a way that we feel more whole and that we can express it, embrace it, and celebrate it is still very important, even though there are more people who are coming to terms and letting go of those traditional norms. To be an atheist in 2021 can still be challenging, but it is important again that we are out and actually celebrating this. So, with that being said, it is very important that regardless of how you come to your non-belief, and there are many ways that that we come to it. Some of us um, have read a number. Some of you have read the Bible cover to cover, right? There is a saying that reading a Bible can make you an atheist, and reading it actually from an objective point of view can give you some more clarity. But to once you come to your non-belief, or even if you are still questioning, it is important to find others. It is important that you don't go through this alone, or you don't feel like you're alone. And whereas, unlike in previous years where there may not have been as many community groups and support groups, there's now definitely more now, especially in recovering from religion and in Black non-believers. So it is important to know that, for one, that there are communities out here, that you don't have to go through this. You don't have to go through this feeling like you have to fight with your families all the time or your friends. And you can find you can and you will find others who are experiencing the same things, or who have gone through the same things that you have gone through. And even if you now, is it necessary for you to be out as an atheist? No. One thing that we do, and I can say the same for recovering from religion, that we are not organizations that force you to be out. That is a process that we encourage individuals to find for themselves and to make informed decisions on how to do that. However, you don't have to be out as a non-believer to find your communities and also get involved. There are plenty of ways that you can, and of course, these events are pre-COVID, and I know many of us are longing to, for that in-person engagement again. I certainly cannot wait until we can do this again. But of course, in the meantime, we do have events like this that help bring more of us together, and so hopefully that is helping. In the meantime, until we can really adjust to this new normal and navigate it. So I will say that as Black non-believers, we've hosted a number of events. Of course, like many others, we have transitioned to more online events, but we have done community events with other secular organizations. We've tabled at events. One of the pictures you see here was at Dragon Con in Atlanta. It's a huge event, a huge convention that takes place Labor Day weekend. And what was good about that is we always catch folks who either have never heard of us before, they didn't realize that there was a community out there for them that they could get involved with, and we also encounter folks who are like, wow, I cannot tell my parents, or I cannot tell my spouse, or I cannot tell other people that I am atheist, right? So there's value again in being at these events and showing ourselves and really um spreading the good word, right? I think many of us are a bit hesitant, a bit ambivalent about, the proselytizing, but we aren't telling people that you should think like us. But it is important for people to know that we are out here. So finding your communities, and getting involved is an important step uh, to eventually coming out. If you are still in that proverbial closet, it is definitely important for you to find others who understand and that you can talk to before you take that leap. Because if I mean, I know it can be an exciting thing. It can be very nervous, but again, there's value in having peer support and also community support to help you with that process. So that is very, very important to the coming out process, that there are communities out here. Now, the second part is whether you are out or not, how to handle difficult conversations, whether you initiate them or not. Now, I think many of us can attest to, um, family members and friends probably noticing a difference in you once you come to this identity, or once you have come to your non-belief. It is very difficult to partake in the activities that you used to. And so you may have family members and friends who may notice a difference. And those conversations can prove to be difficult. And you may or may not be in a place where you are comfortable with having those conversations. And so here are just some tips on how to handle them, whether you initiate them or not. You may be at a point where you might be comfortable asking questions, or you might be comfortable expressing it. But here are just some tips, for that process. And so first is assess your environment. Is does the, try to read the room. Do you think that it is feasible for you to have that conversation or not? Do you think that the people that you're engaging with would be open to it? Do you think that they might be either, sensitive, or they might be reactive? So it is good to, assess the environment, kind of pick and choose if it's okay to have this conversation or not. Also, assess your emotional and mental state of mind. Now, this is very important. Whether you are at the beginning of your process, your journey of becoming an atheist or not, it is always good to assess your state of mind, and also how you might receive the questions or the responses coming at you. So definitely take a step back and assess yourself, and ask yourself if you are in that state to even have this conversation. So take a deep breath. Do take a you know so do take a time to, do take the opportunity to just go, whoo. You don't have to just jump right into it. Take a deep breath, and just, make sure you are calm, cool, and collected, and in a space where you are able to have the conversation. And try a tactful approach. Try a tactful approach. Ask it. You could ask questions. You could throw out tidbits of information depending on your comfort level. There are plenty of things you can do. You can point folks to different resources. There are, just you do have, you can allow yourself and empower yourself to try to at least be somewhat formal about how you approach this subject, because again, it may not be easy to do. And many times, especially if you are in a rural area or if you're surrounded by religious folks, it probably isn't easy. So just try the tactful approach. But if the conversation isn't going well, disengage. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your non-belief. You also don't owe it to anyone to defend yourself, especially if you see that they are coming from an unreasoned and irrational place. So if the conversations aren't going well enough at that time, you have every right to stop it. Now, if you're a bit more of the debating type, you may want to. We know some folks here who are, and that's fine as well. Just understand though that you may not get your point across right away, but if the conversation isn't going in a way that you think is productive and you find yourself getting upset, irate, or, so emotional to the point where it may turn into a shouting match, disengage, just full stop. You don't have to give that energy. You don't have to return it. And again, this is where finding your communities are important, because you can always bounce ideas and how to approach this conversation with others, with believers and others, effectively. So this is one of the reasons why. And this is how secular organizations can help, right? So we can help individuals overcome feelings of isolation and loneliness. And now, as I stated previously, it can be a very isolating experience to even be an atheist, uh, whether you are out or not. It can be very, very isolating. So we help by helping to overcome those feelings. Also, providing community and connections. Not just connections to other members and other people, but also to other and connections to other organizers, to other leaders, and resources. Which brings us to the next point of clinical and medical resources and referrals. I love that Recovering from Religion now has a secular therapy project, so that if you need a therapist for dealing with the emotions and other traumas associated, even if they aren't just coming from religion, but they may have been exacerbated by religion. There are now medical and clinical resources for you that you can take, that you can utilize. Also, we help re-educate on worldviews, because many of us who were indoctrinated were done so with some pretty, sometimes very, very shitty views of the world and other people. Like many of us were probably raised, to be homophobic and misogynistic, and to have internalized oppression, to not understand systems of racism and injustice. So many of us have been affected by a very, very linear and very narrow minded point of view about the world. So with secular organizations, we help re-educate on that. How to be better people, how to navigate, how to understand more of our identities, in addition to our atheist and secular identities. We are intersectional. Many of us belong to the LGBTQ community. Many of us are part of the Black community. Many of us, our identities intersect, and it's important to understand how we are all affected by this, and also how we can help each other through this. And so being re-educated on worldviews leads, or should lead, to liberation from dogmatic perspectives. And I'll tell you, one of the when I spoke earlier about being liberated by my atheism and my non-belief, it definitely liberated me from points of view that I knew were pretty narrow-minded, and that it allowed me to rethink uh, some of the old adages that our parents and our grandparents would tell us that aren't necessarily true. They aren't necessarily accurate, right? So those are often dogmatic perspectives that we don't realize that we may be carrying with us. And it's important for us that as we are re-educated, as we come to our non-belief, that we are always reassessing those points of view, reassessing that indoctrination, and that we are liberated from them. And every day is a learning process for many of us. And I think this is one of the best parts about us being liberated from religious indoctrination and other forms of indoctrination is that every day is an opportunity for us to learn and adjust and do better and finally become a better you. So we help each other become better individuals as a community, but it is also up to the individuals to do that work. And I think this is one of the reasons why I think this is something that many people miss about their religious communities, because there is this sense of hope that that some churches tend to, seem to provide. And I say seem because it is under a guise of, divine intervention, right? But in secular communities, there's more accountability. There's more work that we as individuals have to do. And for many, that is a challenging, that is a scary thought. It is scary to understand and realize that there are things that we have to do on our own in addition to building our communities. Now, I always say that, we can be a starting point, and we certainly want to continue to build our communities, but it is always up to the individual to do that work and make those decisions to be better for themselves, not just for themselves, but also for your families if you have them, for your children if you have them. I know I do. I have three. So for many of us, uh, we help each other build on that and just become better people. So it is important for us. So if you need help, we are here for you. Please do, utilize organizations like Recovering from Religion, utilize organizations like Black Nonbelievers. I also included Street Epistemology by Anthony Magnabosco, who has a series of videos where he and others talk to believers about their position. And also, I think this is helpful for those who are struggling with coming out and openly expressing themselves, because it doesn't just have to be this process where you just come out. You can. There are plenty of ways you can do it. You can just come out and say, "Hey, I'm doing it." You can just take that leap. Others, it takes time. For some, it takes years. But the important thing is that at some point, just like the Nike slogan, sometimes you just do it. And you may be surprised at the responses that you get. Now, earlier today, my husband and I went to get our taxes done, and our tax lady, we've been going to her for 13 years. She's well aware of the organization, and she was telling me that one of her clients is a gentleman who's a Black atheist who lives up in the Lawrenceville, Georgia area. And she said that he told her, "Oh, I bet you never met a Black atheist before, have you?" And she said, "Well, I can point you to two that I know." So you just never know. And again, there is an understandable fear of expressing your position. And again, I always encourage people to choose their battles carefully. Assess your environment, because for some people, their livelihoods do depend on the believers in their area. And we always tell you to mind your money, right? You do have to, be mindful of that. We definitely don't want anyone risking their livelihoods if they don't have to. However, I also know the angst that comes along with, and the frustration that comes along with coming to this identity and still being around a community of religious people, and you just can't hold it anymore, right? It becomes so difficult. You just want to burst. So I understand that feeling as well. You definitely, and sometimes you feel like you want to push that envelope. And one important thing is that you don't want anyone outing you. It's always best that you do it on your terms. Now, I know some people have been outed, and I know as organizations, we want to be careful that we are not outing people intentionally. But there are some folks who may get questions if if a family member, and we've gotten this before. We've had folks who I remember one woman contacted me because a friend of hers who was an atheist uh, liked something that I wrote. She saw that this person liked it and came straight at me and said, "Well, I can't believe you don't believe in such." So, there may be folks who may have a reaction. And based on what they see their relative or their friend liking, they may ask that question. And that may be them either outing themselves, or them having to be not forced, but being placed in a position where they have to ask the question. But again, I still emphasize the importance of this being about your comfort. This is about your comfort level and not having to have the conversation if you don't want to, and also getting back to people, consulting with other like minded individuals, hopefully in the communities that you've become involved in. And so it's okay to seek advice. It is okay for you to get to this point where, or to come to the point where you are comfortable expressing it. So again, it is. And it's important for you to know that again, we are here for support for you. And I always hope that with our activities that we continue to foster that community and to keep people coming back. And I think in that it isn't just a revolving door, for people who come and need that support and then just leave. There are many, many great people involved with our organizations. They are worthy of getting to know more. We have had people who have found long lasting friendships, romantic connections, and also other business networking opportunities as a result of being involved. So it can be valuable. Not only can be, it is valuable to utilize our organizations and also utilize the help if you need it. Again, it is important that you realize that you don't have to go through this alone, and it doesn't have to be something that is harrowing or any more exhausting for you than it has to be, because there are resources out here to help you with your identity, whether you are openly atheist or non-religious or not. Just coming to that identity in itself is, it is an accomplishment, and it is something that you should be proud of no matter what, because you took you know you took the opportunity again to reassess and do that work, and you made it. You didn't die, you didn't get struck by lightning. And also, having this conversation with believers doesn't mean that they're going to get struck by lightning either. And I think that that's important for more people to understand as well, right? They are not going, nothing bad is inherently going to happen to them by speaking with one of us. you know so in us expressing our non-belief, we do, and in coming out, We do break the stigma. We do help get others get a better understanding of our position, and we help others understand that there are many issues in which we can find common ground, even if we don't agree on our religious perspectives anymore. So we can, it is important that you realize that we can help with all of this. And it is, you took that step when you reassess your religious beliefs and coming out of it again, which can be very difficult, but you did it, and it's just the first step. And again, there is support for you when you do come out, and it's only the beginning. It can be the beginning of a new life. One thing I always say is that you can choose family. Family isn't just about your blood relatives. It is about the people you can relate to and relate with. You can start over. It is possible for you to find that new life. It isn't the end, or it may be the end of one life, but the beginning of another. And it doesn't have to be the end completely. It is possible for you to engage, for us to engage more with our religious counterparts, even if it can be challenging. So, just coming to that comfort and space for yourself, is extremely, extremely important. And in 2021, as we're seeing this new administration, for those of us who are um, actively involved with the secular movement, and as we work with other organizations, and as we speak with our representatives to let them know that we are here, we are gaining some ground. We do realize that we understand there has been changes in language, especially in interfaith language, because we have spoken up, because we have spoken out. So now there is a better understanding. We still have a ways to go, but it is happening. It is changing. And hopefully there is comfort in knowing that those of us who are doing the work on behalf of other individuals, is hopefully making this a better process for those of you who still need the support. So I'd like to thank you all very much. I'd also like to encourage you to follow and subscribe to be in on social media. We are on Facebook at Black Nonbelievers. We do have a public page as well as a private group. We are on Instagram at Be Nonbelievers Inc. We are on Twitter at Be Nonbelievers, and also on YouTube at Black Nonbelievers Inc. And if you would like to see the presentations from our 10th anniversary celebration, you may find them on our YouTube channel as well as other presentations. There is a bit, and also presentations from our 5th anniversary in 2016. So I do encourage you to look into more of the work that we've been doing over the past 10 years. And also, we do encourage you, in addition to supporting Recovering from Religion, we encourage you to support Black Nonbelievers. We are a 501c3, and donations to us are tax deductible. We appreciate everyone who supports us. There are a number of people on this meeting who have supported us, and I thank you so much for all the support that you give. You can go right to our website and make a donation there, and you can make your contribution monthly. We are also on Cash App at Black Nonbelievers. We also do accept foundation and charitable giving requests. You may also designate us as a charity on Amazon Smile. So any purchases that you make on Amazon, a portion can benefit Black Nonbelievers. We also accept stock through TD Ameritrade. So if you have stock that you would like to transfer to us, we certainly would accept that as well. And we also participate in workplace charitable giving programs. So if your place of employment does have such a program, you can designate a portion of your paycheck to benefit Black Nonbelievers. The only notable exception, which we are hoping to change very quickly, is a combined federal campaign. We will be looking to sign up for that for federal employees who are looking to donate to other charitable and community organizations. But if your place of employment does have such a program, all you need is our tax ID number, which is available on our website, and you can designate a portion of your paycheck. And of course, it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can do more than one. You know, as we encourage a multifaceted way of living, we certainly encourage multiple ways to support our organizations. We do also encourage volunteer opportunities as well. We are revamping our volunteer guides at Black Nonbelievers because we are in need of facilitators with our affiliate groups. We will have more information on that shortly, and we will continue working with Recovering from Religion and our volunteer work, and we appreciate the support that Recovering from Religion gives to Black Nonbelievers, and we are always happy to support Recovering from Religion as well. It's always about that mutual support there. It is very, very important. And as we begin the question portion, I would like to share that for 2021, we did have to reschedule our major events last year. We were set to do BNCCon for 2020, but we are currently still set to sail again in 2021 in November. We welcome you to join us for that. We are going to have a number of speakers and workshop sessions for that. And also, we invite you to consider attending the Women of Color Beyond Belief Conference. The presentations from 2019 are also on our YouTube channel. We just added a streaming option, so for those of you who would like to stream it, you can register for that. You can find that link on our website as well as the website womenofcolorbeyondbelief.com. It is the only right now, it is the only conference of its kind where all women of color speakers and activists are featured. And this is important. If you look at the flyer, it says "Come one, come all," and we mean that. We encourage all of you to support and tune in and listen to the women who are doing the work in this movement, and also support them. And if you've never been on a cruise before, Darrel was our speaker in 2019, one of our speakers. And one of the most fun things about it is that we went to hell. We went to hell on Grand Cayman Island, and it was such an amazing experience. And I'll tell you, that's one of the best parts of letting go of that religious indoctrination, is that you can have some fun with it. The things that used to be scary to you before might not be as scary as it once was. And also traveling and engaging a group of people who have been there and who have your back also can help strengthen yourself, and it helps with your development. So, we try to have fun with it, fun with each other. It's always a learning process as well. So I encourage you that if you are interested in participating in our upcoming events, we certainly hope you will support them. More information is available on our website. And again, we are here to help you with this journey of coming out if you aren't already. And if you are out, but you are looking for more, if you're looking for more support and more people to connect with, we are here for that as well, because it can only help make you a better person, and just really, and if you decide to become more active and jump in and roll up your sleeves and want to get in and do that work, that is important as well, because the more we are able to help other people, the more we grow, and the more we can continue to fight back against what we're dealing with, probably globally, throughout the world. And also, if you are in countries where you have the freedom of expression, try to think of those who are in countries who are they are still in hiding. Do take advantage of the opportunities that you have to express your position, and also the opportunities that you have to find community, because there are many who don't. There are many who have to fight, really, really fight their way through it. And also, the more that we build up our communities and our representation, the more we can help those who is still a serious, serious struggle for, not just emotionally, but also physically. Because in some countries, to be open and out as an atheist can mean life or death. And so for those of us to where that isn't necessarily an issue, I'm not saying that you absolutely you don't necessarily owe it to those folks, but definitely think about those who are in positions where they have to be in that closet. And so and also don't take for granted the communities that we have here. And again, you don't have to be out or open as an atheist to support the organizations that support you. We still do need that support as well. And in order for us to help those who are coming after you, we still need to sustain and survive and thrive. And so I'd like for everyone to keep that in mind. And as we continue to help each other, as you continue to work on that within yourselves, perhaps also utilizing the resources that are here for you, we could just continue to grow, and we're going to move. We're moving into the future. It's a very optimistic future at this point, and there are so many possibilities. And so we welcome you to explore them with us. So thank you very, very much. And I'd like to, again, thank you very much for having me. And I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mandisa. That was such a lovely presentation as usual. I think you provided a lot of validation to our viewers and also some great resources. And it's also great to know what you guys are doing in Black Nonbelievers. So thank you so much for sharing that. It was just really wonderful to hear. We are now going to start with the Q&As. So if anyone has any questions, just type them in the chat. If you don't want to share it with publicly, you can just send me a DM if you want, and I'll ask Mandisa. Someone is saying that they're trying to look for new communities, and they know where to find new communities, but they're struggling with a lot of social anxiety, and especially with the pandemic, that has made it quite worse because they don't have as much practice. So do you have any sort of advice or any guidance on someone in that situation, which I can imagine is quite a lot of people?
Yeah. So the best thing is, especially now in the pandemic, there are a lot of groups that are meeting online. So and it's fairly easy to access and free to participate. So even if they are, even events like this where you don't, where you can just tune in and perhaps chat with others, try the online events first. And it's okay for you to just kind of, take it in, listen to what other people are saying, and navigate that process, because I know many of us, and myself included, had to deal with that social anxiety. And I know many of us who are, we're pretty, we're pretty nerdy, we're pretty we're pretty book savvy, and some of us do have a hard time navigating socially. But we can take cues from being in these online spaces, and just kind of seeing how folks socialize there. And you don't have to just take it slow if you can. And if you think that you might want to start something in your area, hopefully it is your help growing a network with other organizations, or if you just want to start something on your own, uh, do reach out to organizers. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and also please do utilize the resources that they give you. So yeah, just start slow, and you can just kind of listen in. There should be no pressure. I know we do like for people to try to introduce themselves. I know we are very, very friendly. We try to. I mean, we love giving hugs, of course. In the pandemic, we have to be careful. We're mindful of the social interaction and the social distancing and stuff like that. But we are very, very, I make sure that as an organization, as a community, that we are very welcoming and that we are not forcing people to speak up if they don't want to, but that the atmosphere is comfortable enough to where people, when they want to start talking, then they can. So yeah, just take it slow. Just kind of find your way, feel your way through, especially, and this is a great opportunity now during the pandemic because with so many people meeting online now, there are plenty of meetings that you can find your way through.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was great advice. Thank you. Someone else asks, as an ex-Christian, I don't want to lose all my friends by coming out as an atheist. I want to tell them the truth and quote unquote confess I don't believe, but I also want to stay close to them. How can I balance this, especially because I have had family shaming me after coming out, and I'm scared the same thing will happen again. I don't want to lose all my community at once.
So this can be very tricky, right? Because there are, like I said before, there are many of us who just want to, come out and just, just spread that word. But I think it's important that if you feel comfortable enough, let your family know that you still love them, that these are my perspectives. There's a saying in, especially in Christianity, that you can hate the sin, but not the sinner. You can despise the belief, but not the believer. You can let them know that I don't have anything personally against you unless you hurt me personally or unless you're hurting others. But my perspective does not mean that I have stopped, caring about you any less. And I think the most important thing to do is to continue to show the person that you are, because many of us didn't, we just didn't stop being these loving people simply because we became atheists and non-believers. I think what changed about us was our ability to or seeing things differently. And also, even for some of us, just establishing some boundaries. And that may be hard for some family members. And if they feel the need to shame you on that, then shame on them. There's a lot of growing that they may need to do. And so, and if that is the case, then that's fine too. Sometimes you may need to take a step back from certain family members until you can get to that point where y'all can have these conversations, but letting them know that your love and your care for them hasn't changed is important, but that ultimately this really is about you and taking more of your life into your own hands. And sometimes they may not be ready for that, and it's okay for them not to be ready. It's going to take for them to continue to see the kind of person you are, and and continue balancing that out, because we all, I understand the feeling of not wanting to lose your family, but also not wanting to conform to those, to that, to that structure anymore. So it's going to be depending on your family dynamic. It can be tricky at times, but it's important for you to find that balance, even if you need to take a step back at first. But again, letting your family members know that you still love and care for them all the same.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was really, really helpful. I think it'll help a lot of people. Thank you. And someone has a question about Black non-believers. So they want to know if you need to be like a person of color in order to be an active participant, or if anyone can join in this
Yeah.
do the same sort of activism.
So we are open to everyone. And if you go to our website, we welcome everyone regardless of racial identity, gender identity, sexual identity. But it is important it is important to note that we are an organization that centers Black atheists. We do center Black perspectives. And so that is what, we emphasize first and foremost is support for Black atheists in particular, but we welcome everyone. And also we welcome the conversations. And this may be a way for. And I'm sorry, this is a good opportunity for non-black people to kind of navigate their own sense of privilege at times. And because in many predominantly white spaces there are things you don't think of. There may be subject matters that are similar, but also that you may not used to be you may not used to hearing from you may not be used to hearing from other black folks or people of color. But it is a good learning and working opportunity, but it is important for folks to understand our primary focus. But no, we definitely welcome everyone to participate.
Thank you so much for clarifying. Thank you. And then another question that is maybe not so much to specific like topic of today, but still like interesting. Someone is asking, why do atheist groups generally refer to God as man?
I don't think many of us do, but I think that always and anyone else can feel free to chime in on that. Most of most of the ideas of God that many are familiar with are the Judeo-Christian, forms of, like in male form. And if we think about it, most of them are, they're very patriarchal. They're they are very male centered. And so it's not us that has made that distinction. It's mostly the religions. So many atheists like myself refer to like any entities as he, she, or it. There's certainly been goddesses in different forms of mythology. There have been other like beings like animals and such. So I think it depends on which religion you're referring to, but yes, they are all definitely sexist. And I think there is some subconscious, many people who leave religion tend to kind of bring that with them. There might be a tendency to lean towards more resources or things that might be more male dominated. And that's something that I think that in our re-education or in our liberation that we can consider, when you come out of religion. So I think that is important for us, to consider. So it isn't something that, the atheist communities are doing. That is a byproduct of especially the Judeo-Christian religions.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, thank you. Someone else is asking if you have any advice for those of us that identify as agnostic in opposed to atheist.
Well, so I mean, agnostic is probably very similar to atheist. Some people use those terms interchangeably and sometimes together. Like some people identify as agnostic atheists. So I think that there are many atheist groups who welcome agnostics. I know we are certainly one of them. So and also it is important to understand that atheism doesn't mean that we don't we many of us reject the existing claims of God. And I will personally say that if there wasn't a God that has come to show he, she, or itself, then more than likely there probably isn't one. But we are always open to new information. It isn't like a definitive it isn't like a definitive identity. We are always open to new information. And I think that it's important for us to understand that, there are some people who may identify as agnostic. Some people identify as agnostic before they've come to the atheist identity. And so, it's important, to still, most groups, especially if they are humanist in nature, still welcome agnostics. So it's any most secular identified label. So hopefully there isn't there wouldn't be a hesitation for agnostics to be a part of atheist groups. So I mean, of course, we have those discussions. I know sometimes it can become contentious, but I like for our engagement to be more positive in nature and people getting to know each other as opposed to it just being debates all the time. So it just depends. But yeah, I would hope that most groups are open to having, agnostics and anyone who identifies with a similar secular identity.
Mhm. Perfect, thank you. And then someone else is asking another question related to Black non-believers. They just want to know a bit about any struggles that you had to overcome to found it, if there were any hurdles, or if it was easier than you thought it would be.
Well, to start it, I think because in my career I was a customer service specialist and also a manager. So execution is my thing, right? So putting it together and starting it wasn't necessarily the hard part. It's the maintaining and sustaining it that becomes difficult. And finding people who are as committed, or at least 25% as committed as you,
Mhm.
to making sure this this keeps going is the is the more challenging part. There are some people who are starters and they don't manage well. There are people who have good ideas and are good at concepts, but execution isn't necessarily their thing. It is important to try to find a team of people who can utilize their skill sets and in doing certain things. Hopefully all of the tasks aren't falling onto one person, but I would say that in the beginning, it was, it's always a challenge when you are coming from a community that is still reeling from systemic issues and are still harboring a lot of baggage as a result, and in us definitely asserting that we are pro LGBTQ, we are pro reproductive rights, we are pro women's empowerment, we are pro, everything that is, and also this idea of, we don't just all of a sudden, try to distinguish what the Black experience is. So we help people who are struggling with that, because that is a thing within the Black community as well. Because if if you are a Black atheist, you have at one point had to contend within your own community of people, kind of accusing you of rejecting your identity as Black. So that this is a space where that doesn't happen.
Mhm.
So it's important for us, and we've kind of had to weed some folks out. So I think with many organizations, we've had those challenges of of really trying to vet, who was, of who was in it for, for genuine purposes and who wasn't. And so, it can be very, very challenging to start an organization. It can be very scary. I was nervous as well, but the more we did it, the better we got. And the more support we found in other leaders and organizers, that became easier as well to deal with. So it can be challenging, but sticking with it is worth it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I feel like any volunteering work is challenging, especially if you're funding it, but it is for sure worth it. So yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Someone else is asking, for those of us who are debaters and come from a family of debaters, is there any common pattern we should expect in terms of challenges when coming out?
So if you're a debater, and now I would contend that because I was, I think I'm fairly good at debating or discussing. I was on a debate team in junior high school, but I think that some of the challenges that you might come across are some folks who might be debating out of bad faith, for lack of a better term. You might come across a lot of apologists You'll definitely, and you might want to be careful of frustrating yourself having the same type of argument or debating the same point, right? So, and also, if you might want to be careful that every conversation doesn't turn into a debate, because that can be very off-putting. You don't, and also sometimes the challenge may come in where you may feel like you're on the defensive so much that you always have to be on the defensive. So you don't, it's that's gonna have to be something that that you reconcile within yourself. So kind of knowing when to have the debate and just when to have the conversation, judging whether it is the right time and place or not. And also, just trying to and making sure that you have all of the information, under your belt, and just kind of navigating that space to, because that can make you socially awkward. Like if you are debating all the time, it's like, we don't exist in vacuums, and it isn't that, and having a network and having people to talk to is important. So it is crucial that we are trying to navigate those spaces where we are building relationships, and there's a time for a debate, and then there's a time to just chill.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I feel like it's a very common thing when especially when you are in the angry atheist space, to want to just debate anyone that like talks about religion. But yeah, it's good to choose your battles. So thank you for that. Yeah. So the last question we have today is coming from someone that is saying that since becoming an atheist, they feel disconnected from their religious family and friends. They're still like in their community, but they just don't feel like they can connect with them as well. Um, how can they overcome this feeling of not belonging to that group, or of trying to stay as close to them as they were before, but just not feeling like they have that connection?
And that happens, right? That does happen when you come to your non-belief and you find that you are, and this is what I mentioned before about feeling that, that angst about your new position. It can be very hard to engage within your religious communities once you come to your non-belief, and once you start realizing that you're changing. It is very, very hard to and this is where finding your local secular communities is going to be important, because as you find yourself moving away from your family members and friends, I mean, it is okay for you to kind of, maybe take some time to yourself, because even though, it is good to find communities, it is good to feel comfortable with yourself. Take some time to be alone for a little while and see what that feels like. Because if you belong to a religious community, oftentimes you've had to do everything together. You often feel like you cannot have that space to yourself, and that is also very important. That that you take some time to reassess and reevaluate, and kind of take a step back. Just kind of find some solace for a little while, and once you find uh, other like-minded individuals and find communities, you may find that you might be able to engage with your religious folks every once in a while. As you become more comfortable, as you find other folks, right? So, and knowing that even if you're in this space for a little while, you know that there's another space that you can go to say, or other people to talk to, to either kind of vent or just talk about it. And so it's a matter of coming to terms with how you feel about it, taking some time to yourself, and also again finding those spaces, finding other people in your areas that you can connect with. So it's like a trifecta. It's a like a 3, 4, maybe 5 prong process. So it's probably a cycle of things. Stepping back for one is okay. It is
Mhm.
okay to do that. Regrouping with yourself, finding other like-minded folks, and if you feel comfortable enough to engage religious people again, and also setting boundaries. It's okay. We're not going to talk about that. You're not going to push that conversation, or I'm only going to come to these events. That is okay. It is a new normal. It is okay for you to do that for yourself. So I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Thank you so much. Um, cool. Then that is all the time we have for questions today. Thank you so much, Mandisa,
Thank
for
you.
both the presentation and the Q&A. Were both those really, really great. I'm going to let Dr. Ray have his 60 seconds of, I was going to say fame, but I mean, he's already famous beyond
Yes,
RfR.
Darrel's famous.
Just for all of you to know, next week we are going to have Rebecca Williams, and she's going to talk us about how to speak to your religious family, specifically in-laws and extended family. So if this is something that you struggle with, please do join us next week. That'll be amazing. And without further ado, I'm going to let the absolutely amazing Dr. Ray do his presentation.
Thank you, Maya. Oh, I'm looking forward to that. I always love seeing what Rebecca comes up with. She's always so creative. So before I get started, you reminded me, Mandisa, of a story I had of my own accountant. I lost my office manager and accountant, and I looked in the phone book and called an accountant close to my house, and I told her what I needed. This was like 15 years ago. And after I told her what I needed, I said, but you also need to know who I am and what I do. And I told her, and there's silence at the other end of the phone. And I'm thinking, I live in Bonner Springs, Kansas, 3,000 people, and there's silence. I don't know what this is going to mean. And then the next words that came over the phone was, I thought I was the only one. And so me and my accountant have become really fast friends over the years because I don't know, it seems like we're the only atheists in all of Bonner Springs. So I want to underline something that Mandisa said tonight, and that is, you are the captain of your own life. You have to decide how you're going to live your life. If you have a strong desire to be authentic around people you're around, that's important for you. Or maybe you don't want to be authentic because it could have consequences you don't want to pay for. That's fine. I think that's what Mandisa is saying. It's your life and it's your choice. I just want to challenge you with one idea. You've only got a limited number of years on this planet. It's the only life you're going to get. Do you want to waste it playing a game to other people's rules? And I use that term waste with some advisement because think about it. If you were raised in a family like, say, Mandisa was, where there was no religion, what would you be doing with your life right now? While you're playing the game of your religious parents, you would be doing, she doesn't have to do that. And people like Mandisa who have declared their independence don't have to do that. And I mean, family's important, but you're the only life you get. And they should not have the final word over your life. Anyway, that's Darrel's sermon. As you all know, I can preach really, really well. We haven't made a final decision. I just want to kind of put this bee in everybody's bonnet here. Fall excursion might come up in September. We did it 2 years ago. We had to cancel it last year. If you're interested in the fall excursion, which Mandisa, by the way, was at and did an incredible job of karaoke, and I don't even like karaoke, but she was quite entertaining. And she is classically trained, I guess. Anyway, just keep us on your radar. I can't announce anything. Board has not made a decision, but you might want to think about it if you want to come to our excursion. And of course, if you want to donate, we're looking for donations all the time. We appreciate any support you get, and we appreciate any support you give to Mandisa and Black Nonbelievers too. BN is one of the main organizations that we enthusiastically support on many different levels. And last, if you want to volunteer, we need more volunteers. We're always looking for volunteers. And as we come out of COVID, we're going to be looking for more and more local group volunteers as well. And you can volunteer in multiple capacities as you want. Anyway, I think that's all I got to say tonight, Amaya. Thank you.